day that you have an opportunity to tell your story, to tell how God has worked in your life or how this church has touched your life. You hear my stories all the time, and I have heard some of your stories, and they're wonderful stories that I thought should be shared. So the first story is from Connie. Connie didn't want to get up here to share her story, so she wrote it for me. And so I'm going to try to get through it. I've read it a couple times, so maybe this time I won't cry. So this is from Connie. God has blessed my life in so many ways. I grew up with loving parents to guide and teach me, and a brother and a cousin to fill my life with good times and memories to last forever. My mom started me off in this church at an early age. This church is home to me. So many of you will always hold a special place in my heart. I had so many wonderful teachers teaching me songs, the books of the Bible, and Bible verses. I met some of my best friends here. And God has been by my side and placed people in my life to love and support me through my happiest and saddest moments. You all have been here for all of it too. I got married here. She got married here. Brought her kids here and said goodbye to her dad here. I have found that God does answer all our prayers. He may not answer them the way you want him to, but he does answer according to his plans for you. A year ago, life was going along smoothly, but God had his own plan for my family. He asked us to step out in faith to follow his plan, which was a huge responsibility that would completely change our lives. We prayed about it, and God sent us signs that made it clear we needed to do as he asked. We knew if we did as God asked, he would help us along the way. God, through you all and many others, has provided for us and supported us every step of the way. We don't know God's reasons for his plan for us, and some days I still think it's a test, and I feel like I'm failing miserably. I pray that God will continue to be with my family through it all. No matter what happens in this life, God is in control, and he will get us through anything that comes our way. God is good all the time. Amen. Brenda, you have a story for us?
I may or may not get through it. Tina, I shared part of my story with Tina at the Bible study on Wednesday night. And she said, well, sometimes you need to tell the other people about it. So I did, and since it's Christmas time, part of what happened to me was at Christmas, because in 1954, I was in the hospital bed, flat on my back. And I know we read in in the Bible about miracles happening every day. But have you ever seen a miracle? I am one. I'm a walking miracle. In the fall of 1954, when I was 10 years old, my legs started hurting. William is the only one in the room probably that knows this. It's my brother. My legs started hurting really bad in the calves of my legs. But I thought, well, I don't know what it is. My mother thought maybe a cold had settled in my legs. But they didn't know what happened to them. But anyway, one morning I got up with my brothers and we had to walk about a mile up to catch the bus. And I fell up in the woods and couldn't get back up. So they said, well, if you don't come home, we're going to miss the school bus. And I said, well, just go on. I'll be there when I get there. So they went on to school. And here I am in the woods, and I thought, well, how am I going to get up? So I finally managed to crawl over to a tree and held on to a tree and got up. And it took me about 3 hours, but I finally made it back to the house. And Mama said, well, what's wrong? I thought you were at school. And I said, well, my legs are hurting, and I fell, and I couldn't get back up. So they immediately took me to see Dr. Sam. And he examined me, and he said, well, I don't really know what's wrong with you. He said, I would think you had rheumatic fever, but you don't have a fever. So he said, told them to take me back home, and if my legs hurt so bad, not to let me try to walk, to just stay in the bed, and bring me back the next Sunday morning to his office. So once they put me to bed, then I couldn't walk at all. So when we went back to the office the next Sunday, he said, well, your case puzzles me. I don't know what's wrong with you, so I'm going to refer you to a doctor in Roanoke. And they examined me, and they still didn't know what was wrong with me. But again, I was in the hospital, and finally they tapped my spine, and they said I had polio. So then I was put into isolation, and that made me feel like I was a leper because everybody that came and went in my room was gowned up and masked up and gloved up. But after they determined what I had, by that time I could not even raise my head off the bed. So I was paralyzed from here down. But they immediately started working on me, and I had hot whirlpool baths that they put me in. They rolled a little trolley up to my bed, and I always called it the hot dog machine. You know, when you used to go to the restaurants and they opened up this steaming thing and got your hot dog bun out. Well, that's what it looked like, but they were hot packs. And I would lay on my stomach, and they would line my body with those hot packs. I had a lot of injections, some oral medicine. They came in to give me physical therapy, and even though I could not move my limbs, they moved them for me. Just picked them up and moved them and raised my legs up. And so Christmas time came, and I thought, I don't want to be in the hospital at Christmas. But it was one of the most wonderful Christmases I ever had, because people in Roanoke, I was in what's Roanoke Memorial or Carilion Hospital now. It was once called Crippled Children's Hospital, and that's where I was. But people from all over the area brought gifts to the ward I was on. I was in a room with 3 other people, and they just showered us with everything that you could think of, gift-wise, food-wise, candy, coloring books, whatever. So it really turned out to be a wonderful Christmas. But in the Bible, when we read about Jesus healing, and you know, he healed a lot of people, he either spoke and they were able to be healed or walk, or sometimes he touched them and they were healed. He healed me from a distance. But through those long months, I was in the hospital for 3 months. And during those months and all these treatments, I gradually began to get a little better. And my parents said one day when they came to the hospital, I was all excited. They said, I've got something to tell you. I can raise my head up off of the bed. I really couldn't. I was pulling my pigtails and pulling my head up. But anyway, I gradually got better, and I was able to have the use of my one arm. My bed was by the window, as you can see, and I had to turn over on this side, and I'm right-handed, so I had to use my left hand. So if you've ever tried to write with your left hand, you know how awkward that is. But I finally was able to feed myself, and then they would come every day and stand me up and kind of walk for me or walk with me, somebody on each side. Then I went to the parallel bars and walked, and you've seen people on TV that did that. And then I went to crutches, and then finally I was able to walk without the crutches. So at the end of January I got to go home, and in April I went back to school, and I passed my grade that year and went into 7th grade. Jesus wasn't with me physically, but I would not be where I am today if he hadn't healed me. And even the doctor said, we cannot tell you what happened with you. We don't know why you were healed. The little girl in the bed next to me died, which was traumatic. The other little girl in the next bed wore these horrible braces. It was the only way that she could move at all. I never had to wear braces. They took me one day, they said my lungs had been affected and also my voice, and I might have to be put into an iron lung. But I wasn't. So I escaped that little part too. But had Jesus not healed me from afar, I wouldn't be here today. I've had a wonderful life, and I feel like God has been good to me. He saved me for a purpose. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel in my heart that I am a walking miracle, because if he hadn't healed me, I wouldn't be here today. And I want to show you this lovely picture of me when I was 10 years old. It was actually a cover girl. So if you don't think that Jesus is still in the business of miracles, he is. He's still healing people today.
How many of y'all read that story about Brenda? It shocked me when she told me at Bible study, and I said, Brenda, you have got to share that story, because people need to hear that, oh, Jesus is still in the miracle business. And we always knew that Brenda was a miracle here. So. All right, Mary.
Well, I'm going to start off with a miracle too. When I was working, I started having these bad headaches at the back of my head, you know, and then I'm coming home, I would get sleepy, you know, and everything. I lived on 746 up here. I'd get so sleepy coming home, you know, and I prayed about it. I asked the good Lord, I said, well, if you think I need to go to the doctor, let me know. So I was about ready to turn in on my road up there. And I said, well, I can make it home, you know. And before I got to my driveway, I went through the fences down there. It was a ravine down there. And the only thing that held my car was just a little sapling. I would have went down in the hole. But I went to the doctor, and I found out that I had a Arnold Chiari. It's the bone in the back of my head, I was born with it. It's down too far, and that's what caused my headache. And that's why I'm getting so nervous too. I'm nervous now. It affects your balance a little bit too and things like that, you know. But that was a miracle that God saved me from being hurt and everything. My neighbors, he heard it, he come out, he said, "Mary, is that you?" Because I was crawling through the fence by then. It didn't hurt me at all, you know. And then, Ray's been gone 9 months. And he's with Jesus, and I'm happy. I miss him, but because that's where he wants to be, and I'm happy. But God has been with me. He's never failed doing what he said he would do, comfort you, give you strength, and all that stuff, and people around you. You know, the church, I'm so thankful for the church and all what people do for me. He's blessed me in so many ways. He said he'd never leave me nor forsake me, and I know that. He's proven all of that. And that's why he sent, Jesus was born, you know, to save us, get us through all those things, you know. So, and God just sends things to comfort you. Just like this morning, I don't turn the radio on in the car, but sometimes you hit a little something over there and the radio will come on, you know. You know what was singing, what it was? It was Bill Monroe, and he was singing, "I'll meet you in the morning." That was kind of sad, so don't give up on God, because he'll see us through anything.
They are true words. Don't ever give up on God, because he never gives up on us. He will never leave us or forsake us. Thank you for that story. All right, Cindy?
Gee, I should have gone first. I can't top these stories. Mine's more sentimental, I think, more than anything. That's me, guys. Most of y'all heard my testimony at homecoming a couple years ago. This church is the biggest part of me, beside my family. I've known nothing but this church. I grew up here. I was on the cradle roll. I have proof. I have a picture. I have a thing that says I was on the cradle roll. But to have the love that I grew up with, Brenda, part of your purpose that you were saved for was to drill all those Bible verses in our heads, and boy, you didn't come out of Brenda's Sunday school class without learning something. And she was a taskmaster with that. And Mary, I still remember the little pocketbook Mary gave me when I was in one of her Sunday school classes one year. Just so many faces. So Eugene, Doris Lynch giving us lemonade out of the big metal tub. So many happy memories that I have growing up, and I was glad that my children were baptized in this church, and I'm glad they're both here today, because this church is a big part of me, and I've been blessed. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. I don't have any dramatic stories like Brenda's and Mary's so much. My dad ran over me with the tractor, which Mary and Brenda might be the only ones that remember that. But I was about 4, I guess, and I remember Jack Shrewsbury carrying me down the steps with my cast on my leg. I had a cast on my arm from here to here and here to there. And I think about it as an adult, how scared my parents must have been, because if God hadn't had a hand in it, and I would have gone under, I went under the drag behind the tractor. And I remember, even that age, I remember it going over me. And it didn't go over my head, and I didn't go under the tractor itself because it was a caterpillar crawler, and I would have been crushed. I just went on, part of my right side of my body went under it, and I was saved, and I didn't realize that, for years, because I was a child, and I know now he had to have a hand in it. I know he had a hand in my cancer diagnosis, because I went to the doctor, and the doctor did tests, he did biopsy, he did MRIs, everything said it wasn't cancer. And that doctor, he's like, I just feel like there's something there. I feel like we should do a full hysterectomy and not do laparoscopic and do it. And had he not done that, if God had not had a hand in that, and they would have done laparoscopic surgery, I'd probably be dead today because it would have spread the cancer cells throughout my body. But he did it the way the doctor handled it, the way he did the surgery. I was stage 1B. I didn't have to have chemo. I didn't have to have radiation. And I remember laying in the bed before they took me back for the surgery and just praying to God, saying the 23rd Psalms. And the first thing I did when I opened my eyes was I realized I made it through the surgery. I was alive. And I said, thanks to God for pulling me through, because I want to be here for my family. And I'm here for another day. I don't know, again, Brenda, I don't know what he saved me for either. I don't know what my purpose is, but I'm still here. And I thank this church, because through my father dying in 1988, my brother died in 1977, my father in 88, then my mother had dementia, Scott's parents, taking care of them, you all have been there. We always knew you were there. And I know if I picked up the phone and I needed something, there was someone here I could call. And this church, the memories here are forever engraved. I can still see my dad sitting about where Riley sat with his hand like this because he couldn't hear, and he put his ear up like that so he could hear. My mom and dad sitting here, my dad being an usher, us singing with the blue dresses. We had matching blue dresses that were knit. They were awful. But all the memories that I have are as much a part of me as just my family. This is my family too, and I love this little church, and I love all of you, and I want to thank you for all that you've given me all these years. So God is good, and all the time.
Well, Cindy, I think your purpose was to try to keep Scott in line.
Oh,
That's your purpose right there, because that's a hard job. Yes. All right, does anybody else have anything? Yes.
Well, I didn't know if I was going to talk or not, but I guess I'll say a few words. You know, I didn't grow up in this church like a lot of the people that are here. I grew up in a church down the road. My mom and dad, raised me in church. If the door was open, I had to be there. I may not have wanted to be there, but Mama made sure I was there. And through that foundation, growing up, I strayed away and did some things I'm not proud of, and God watched over me through that, because I was saved as a young man. And some of my driving habits weren't too good, and God watched over me through that and brought me through that. But this church, my first memory of this church was I was set up on a blind date. Had never been here before, but Rodney, Brenda's son-in-law, was dating her daughter at the time, Jennifer. I think everybody knows Rodney and Jennifer. Well, Rodney said, "You need to come on over and meet this girl at the church." I had never met her before. So I came. It was a Christmas program that they invited me to the Christmas program to meet Connie, and so we sat through the Christmas program. We went out afterwards, and I thought the date went pretty good. And at the end of the date, there was a little misunderstanding. So it was about a year and a half before I ever saw her again. Rodney and Jennifer were getting married, so they asked her to be the maid of honor. Rodney asked me to be the best man. So I was back in this church again, and there was still a spark there, so it didn't take but 4 dates, and I was engaged, and over 30 years ago, we were married, and God has provided us a place to live, and this church has supported us through every aspect of that. We raised our kids here, which Cameron ain't here this morning, but I'm going to have to work on him a little bit more. But God has provided us with 3 wonderful children, and now we have some extra children that God has provided us with to try to make an influence in their life. But through it all, this church was just like family to me. Everybody here welcomed us in. They didn't know me, but they welcomed me in. And, they treated me just like I had been here forever, just like Connie had been. And you know, having my church home, which was mostly family where I went to, and then coming here and not really being kin to anybody, but I still felt like I was kin. I felt like everybody was a relative because you just welcomed me in and treated me so well. And it's been a wonderful life so far, and hopefully it'll go a while longer yet. But you know, over 30 years on a blind date, 4 dates before we got engaged. I mean, I guess God had a hand in that, because otherwise, you know, it probably never would have worked out. But I love all you guys. I treat you as family. I'm glad to be here, and I hope I'm here a lot longer. Thank you.
We hope so too. You know, these stories. How do we get people to understand how important a church family is in your life? I've been trying to get people to understand that for over 30 years, but a church family, gosh, I couldn't imagine raising my kids and all that stuff without a church family, and it breaks my heart that people are out there trying to do that when we are here ready to support them. So share these stories about how the church family has touched and helped you in your life. Maybe one day people will listen. Maybe. Let us stand and